Brad Dunculver from Morris News Service. You just said you could finish last year and only be 30 points down. Realistically, can you or anybody afford a mulligan in this now? I mean, has it gotten so tight that you have to be flawless?
Well, I think there's a lot of parity right now in Sprint Cup racing, and there's some teams that are really good, so I don't know exactly how to answer that question. I think you can't have a bad finish and win the championship. I think you can have a bad finish and finish in the top 2 or 3. But we'll see. Every chase seems to have its own way and its own process of winning it, and I think it's important to not overthink it and just do it.
Let's go Melinda, and then we'll go Nate. Go ahead, Melinda.
Melinda Adams, ESPN. Brad, how has your performance and your results compared to your expectations in the Sprint Cup Series?
What, you had that one prepared, didn't you? That was totally not off the cuff. I think we always set high expectations. I know I do, out of myself, and I know my team does, which is what I like about them, because they set them on themselves. I think that's the best way to put it. And you have to balance that with the pressures that may be, and I'm thrilled to be where we're at right now. Just not in the standings, but in general, just the vibe and the emotions that you see and the people you're surrounded with. I'm really proud of everybody I'm around, and really thankful for the opportunities that I have and the people I'm surrounded with. So I think we're a pretty happy group right now.
Let's go with Nate.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Brad, you and Denny Hamlin have both been pretty candid about the fact that Dover is not one of your strongest tracks. Meanwhile, the 48, obviously, that might be his strongest track, period. Can you psych yourself out at all? Like, I know you want to be honest and you have realistic expectations, but going into that race, do you have to kind of just hold serve against knowing that he's going to get a top 5 probably regardless? Or?
Well, I think the way the last few races have played out, the last really few months, it's taught me a valuable lesson to maybe look even less at practice and previous results than ever before. I think with the rule changes and so forth that have been implemented, that things have changed and it's really hard to get a read on them. I was just telling someone in the truck when Jimmy Johnson went out and qualified that I thought he was the guy to beat qualifying-wise, and he qualified behind me, and I qualified not very well. So that really caught me off guard. And then again, last week, at Chicago, I thought the 48 car was terrible and the 11 car was the car to beat, and based off of practice, and it didn't work out that way. So I think it's really easy to allow yourself to get psyched out by looking at previous stats or even practice and qualifying stats, and it doesn't seem to be the case. So it's really hard to give a great answer on who's going to be good where. Our previous history has shown that we have not ran well at Dover, but I'm optimistic that can change.
Take a couple more. We'll take Bob and then Lewis.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. It's kind of ironic, but the last time you were in here was the week after AJ had been suspended. We were asking, could he come back? And there was a huge feeling like it's going to be really, really tough. And now, just kind of a few days after he's been reinstated, do you still feel the same way you felt 8 weeks ago? And or do you think how things have played out maybe have helped AJ in his favor?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a tough road. It's great to see Roger support him like he has been. That's really important, and really the whole NASCAR community has, reached out in their own ways, and so I'm happy for him that the process, the road to recovery, is that what it is?
Yes.
I'm happy that the road to recovery process has worked for him, and I think we'll all be watching to see what happens.
Let's go with Lewis, and then we'll go over to Rich.
Louis Franco, Reuters, all the way back here. As your famous tweet, whatever, the news cycle now is instantaneous. How do you guys, reset? You have a great week in Chicago, and how do you refocus to come here? And even though you've got the lead, it's very fleeting.
When I was at Hendrick, there was this guy who still works there by the name of Ken House. And I remember when Jimmy was on his streak, and I was there at the time, he said something I thought was really, really profound and really, really smart. And that is, never believe your own press clippings, for good or bad. And, I think that's the key. It's to, know that the truth probably lies somewhere in between. You're probably not as good as people say you are on some days, and you're probably not as bad as people say you are on some days. and you have to balance those things and how you feel about it. Certainly, confidence is important, but you have to be realistic and never lose sight of how tough this sport is and how everybody else is really good too.
Let's go with Rich, and then we'll end with Melinda. Go ahead, Rich.
You have a limited experience on that track, but do you have enough experience to have a good handle on how to run here?
By today's standards, you could say I have limited experience because there's really not that many young drivers or drivers that have less experience than me in the series. But I feel like I have the appropriate amount of experience to be successful, and I feel like we've showcased that over the last two weekends here where we finished 5th and 2nd. So we won the nationwide race last time here, so I feel like we have a pretty good track record and as good a shot as anyone else.
Go ahead, Melinda.
What drives you to be so relentless in your quest to win? Like, you never give up.
Am I relentless? When you want something, you go out there and get it, and you get the job done. I've just always believed if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well, and I've never been afraid to put the effort in, and I've had great teachers in my life to showcase what that effort means, whether it's my dad or guys like Paul Wolf or guys on the team. And I know that there's a group of people around me right now at Penske Racing that work their butts off and make sacrifices to their own lives for me to be successful. And it sure would be a shame to not give the same.